Oh, hey, Jill here, and you're listening to Organized Chaos with Jill. I'm your host and mom of three, and this is the show where we chat all the mom things and then some. So grab your coffee or whatever it is that gets you through the day, and let's get to it. Before we dive into today's episode, I do just want to take a second and say thank you guys for being so understanding last week. I apologize for not getting an episode out. My husband had the week off from work, which is very rare as he's typically working 60 hours a week and we don't have a lot of time together. So we decided to take the kids on a little mini vacation. And I really just wanted to be in the moment, enjoy our time together as a family. So again, I apologize for not releasing an episode last week, but thank you guys for being very understanding. And without further ado, welcome to episode 3. August 6th, 2010, 11:13 p.m. Hello. My name is Jillian Kelly, and I was born on April 16th, 1986, at Hoag Memorial Hospital in Newport Beach, California. I was adopted by Jean and Richard Kelly from Boston, Massachusetts, who were living in Pasadena, California at the time. I recently started searching for my birth mother. From the information I have from my birth mother lived in Long Beach, California, was a student at Cal State Long Beach, and was a member of the swim team. I also have a baby hospital card saying baby girl Middo with the mother's name listed as Darren. A lot of the information I have found coincides with your information. My adoption was arranged by James Brannon, S.J. If you are my birth mother, I understand this may be shocking to you, and I hope it does not upset you. However, this is something I have been thinking about for a lot of years. I hope to hear back from you either way to let me know how you feel. Love, Jill Kelly. Send. Let me backtrack here a little bit. As you can probably tell, I am adopted. I was adopted at birth, and it is something that I have known my whole life. I grew up knowing I was adopted. It was never a secret. And I have always maintained my family is my family. My parents were my parents. Just that's who raised me. This is my family, regardless of being adopted. However, there has always been this part of me that growing up, I knew something was missing. And it was more missing in a sense of just not knowing everything of who I am. I would go to a doctor's appointment and they'd ask about family history and I would just have to reply, I'm adopted, I don't know. So it was hard. And I think when I was kind of ending high school, becoming an adult more so, even though I still don't feel like I'm an adult. But as I was coming into adulthood, I felt like I was ready to know more. And I had this yearning to kind of find more information. With that being said, I will say that my family has been great through all of this. My mom always said that when I was ready to look, if I ever came to that, if and when I was ready, that she would help me. And that was a huge kind of weight off my shoulders for me, so I didn't feel like I had to be sneaky about anything. It wasn't that I was trying to find this new family of mine. It was just finding out more about who I was, and they were very understanding about that, which was pretty awesome. Now, before I really get personal here and dive in and really share my story, why I want to share this with all of you is because I'm hoping that it might resonate with some of you. Maybe you are a birth mother, and you've thought about the child that you put up for adoption. If he or she is out there somewhere, if he or she thinks about you, is looking for you, whatever. Maybe you're a child who was adopted, whether at birth or later on in life, and you want to know more about where you came from. I just hope that this story kind of resonates. I guess I know I already said that word, but for lack of a better word, resonates with you. And maybe gives you a little hope or inspiration or faith or whatever you want to call it as it pertains to your story. So that's really why I wanted to hop on here, get a little bit more personal with my listeners, and just share a little bit more about me. So this is kind of the story of finding my birth mother and finding where I came from. With that message that I read, or at the beginning of this episode, I hit send on that, and it was probably like a few minutes of writing, not even, because I had kind of played it out in my head what I was going to say before I even started typing. But I'm pretty sure that I held my breath the entire time I was typing. And as soon as I hit send, I let out this sigh, like let out that breath of air that I had been holding in. And I thought to myself, this could go one of three ways. This person I'm sending a Facebook message to might not be my birth mother. This person could be my birth mother, but it was 24 years ago from when I sent it. And, she might want nothing to do with me. Or the third, which I really thought was a long shot, was this person could be my birth mother, and this could be the start of something pretty amazing. And I remember going to bed, because it was late at night. I sent that message at like 11:15 at night. It was late. I went to bed. I don't know if I actually truly slept. I think the anxiety was, running through me as I was trying to think of like all the possible scenarios. And I remember getting up the next morning and just kind of going about my day, not really sure what to expect. And on August 7th of 2010, coincidentally 15 years ago to the day that this episode is being released, I get an alert that I have a new Facebook message. Wow. I am sitting here and can't stop crying and smiling at the same time. I have thought of you every day for the last 24 years, waiting and hoping for this day to arrive. I live in Texas with my husband, Kevin. We have been married for 15 years this past January. We have no children. I work at a veterinary surgical hospital in Dallas and have worked there for 11 and a half years. I would love to talk to you. I'm going to send you a friend request on Facebook. I would love to see what you look like. I only got to hold you for 30 minutes at that hospital all those years ago and would really love to see you now as an adult. All my love, your birth mother. I remember when I read that, and I think I read it a few times over, and I ran out of my bedroom and into my mom's room or the kitchen, wherever she was, and I said, she wrote back. And I read the message out loud to my mom. And, she was happy for me. It was exciting. But then it also was like nerve-wracking, shocking, scary. I don't know. It was really all the emotions you could possibly feel and then some. And, I got that friend request and started looking through photos. And I almost remember it being like a blur. Like I didn't even know if this was really happening, I was 24 years old. I had been thinking about this for so long. And then here we were. And I almost kind of remember having this kind of thought of, now what? And I've never been somebody that's kind of at a loss for words. I've always been very outgoing. My father used to say I never met a stranger. And yet here in this moment, I felt like I'm meeting a stranger. And what do? I don't know what to say. Like it was just all the emotions, right? So we went back and forth a little bit and then exchanged numbers. And from there, we got on the phone. And I remember the first question I asked, I don't even know if I said hello. I think I immediately said either, do you have any allergies? Or why am I deaf? And it seems in hindsight now like the two stupidest questions you could ask. But in that moment, you don't even know what to think, feel, ask, say, do, whatever. But I grew up with a ton of allergies, so I was like, oh, maybe I should ask about this family history stuff. And I also have an inborn deafness. So those were my kind of questions. And then it almost was like a very cliche first date phone call is kind of how I can explain it. It was like, what's your favorite color? What do you do for work? Like, it was crazy. And it's funny because I don't even fully remember all of it except for those little dumb questions, which really weren't dumb because this was truly somebody that you were just trying to get to know. And, we went from there, and I think she was on the way to a baseball game with her friend. I was at a friend's house, and it was so surreal. Sorry, it's crazy to me even thinking back on this, because now it's been 15 years since that call. And in case y'all are wondering, we do still have a relationship. We have stayed in touch. We visit each other. We've gone on vacations. She was at my wedding. So it did turn out to be that option 3 where this was my birth mother, and it turned out to be something pretty great. And my family has always been very welcoming of her. My mom has acknowledged she wouldn't be a mom if it wasn't for my birth mom and things like that. So it's been really great all around. But, yeah. Anyway, rambling a bit. We got on the phone probably about a week later. I want to say it was like within a week. It was very fast. She came to visit. And what's really, really funny is I used to be really big into scrapbooking. I haven't done it in forever, but I used to do it all the time. So I decided when we had planned that she was going to come visit that I was going to kind of make a scrapbook of my life to give to her as a gift so that she could kind of see a little bit about where I grew up, how I grew up, see pictures of me with my friends, things like that. And I put it together. I was really proud of it. And our plan when she came was that, we met in Boston at the hotel she was staying in, did breakfast, and then she was going to come back to my mom's house, and we were going to have some other family over and kind of have a little get together. So I had left the scrapbook at my mom's house at home, to give to her when she came back with everybody. And we met, we ate breakfast, and she hands me a gift at the breakfast table. And it was a scrapbook of her life. I mean, down to there were stickers in it that I had put in my scrapbook. And I remember laughing. And my mom even kind of chuckled. And I remember we were talking about it after the fact. And, my birth mother had said that, she didn't get it, why we were laughing and chuckling. Because I hadn't brought mine with me to breakfast. And then, obviously, when she came over and I gave her the scrapbook, she understood my reaction to getting the scrapbook from her. So it was really funny that that's kind of both how we chose to share our life with one another as, a first gift. And it's really, really cool, I have to say, to, in true life, see nature versus nurture. It's something you grow up learning about and how you were raised and things like that. But I do have some similarities with my birth mom, and then I have some similarities with my mom and the family I grew up in. So it is really kind of funny to see that. But yeah, she had a great visit. I think I went to Texas a month or 2 later, and we really just started alternating visits, at least once a year, sometimes twice a year if we could. The New Year's, so the first New Year's that we had been connected. So that was, I think, 2010 going into 2011. We went to California, and this was my first time back to California since we moved when I was 7 years old. And my mom came, and I met my biological grandparents, which all of my grandparents have passed on that I had with my family growing up. And so it was kind of cool to have another set of grandparents now. I met my biological aunt, my birth mother's sister, and my biological cousin, who happens to be only 3 months older than me. And then all this other extended family that I probably couldn't even tell you half their names now, but it was such a surreal moment. And I was nervous, I'm not going to lie, because there were people that I knew were not too keen on my biological mother having me and giving me up for adoption. She was very young at the time. Maybe I'll have her on this podcast sometime to share her version of the story, because I'm sure a little bit different than mine. But I was nervous, but it was really, really cool to just see everybody and talk to everybody. And I have to say that I was very fortunate to feel so welcomed into this family, because that was the biggest fear I had, that I was just like a mistake when my birth mom was a teenager. And now I'm coming back here and inserting myself in this family. I didn't know what to think. But it did work out good. And thankfully, but those fears are normal. And that's kind of what I said at the top of this episode of what I wanted to resonate with you. If you are somebody that's adopted and maybe you have met some of your biological family and it was that same feeling, it's such a normal feeling, because as much as, the message with my birth mother went great, I didn't know how everyone else was going to take it. It was that same sense of, what if they want nothing to do with me? And what if they wish I didn't come back into the picture? Or what if they think I'm trying to get something out of this? And, I'm very fortunate that those feelings pretty much subsided as soon as I got there and was able to talk to people and meet people. But I do know that that's a very real situation for some people, and I know that it's a completely normal feeling. And yeah, so this journey for us has been growing. We've really gotten to know each other through the different seasons of my life. And I'm going to be totally honest, it has not always rainbows and sunshine, but we've worked through it and have maintained a relationship. And if you listen to my road trip episode, I said we surprised family. This was the family we surprised in Texas. So we went, with the two boys to Texas, knocked on my birth mom's door and surprised her. So that was a pretty cool surprise for her, where she got to see the kids. She had been at James's first birthday, but she hadn't yet met William. And then obviously I was 8 months pregnant, so she hasn't met Anna yet, but she met her when she was in my belly. So it's been a really, really great experience and relationship building that I've had with my birth mother. And I've been able to confide in her when things are a little crazy with my family or just with life in general. And so I'm very fortunate for this relationship that we have. I no longer feel like I'm missing part of who I am. For those wondering, I did connect with my biological father as well, and that's a different story. But, I know who I am, and I'm very fortunate for that. And I could go on and share a bunch of times that, my birth mother and I have had together, and the different trips we've taken and the visits that we've had. But just know that with each of them, we have grown closer and we've gotten to know each other, and we know what drives the other crazy. She knows my family, she knows my friends. We know her family, we know her friends. And some of her friends have become family for me too. So it's been very nice to have that. And I understand fully that I am one of the lucky ones in this type of situation. I know that not every adoption story is like this, especially not every adoption story that goes into reconnecting after so many years. Our adoption was a closed adoption. So my birth mom could never go look for me, even if she wanted to. So, I didn't feel like when I saw, I've been thinking about you for 24 years, I never felt like, well, why didn't you come looking for me? I understood she couldn't. It was up to me. And I'm so glad I did. One thing is, I will say I'm glad I waited until I was older, because when I was 17, 18, I was like a jerk of a teenage girl, right? Like we've all been there. And I don't think that I would have had the maturity that I had at 24 in terms of forming that relationship and defining what I wanted this relationship to be. So I am glad that I waited until a little later in life. And to birth moms that might be listening to this, if you're thinking about somebody that you maybe have put up for adoption and you feel like if they haven't reached out to me by now, they're not going to, I hope this does give a little hope. There was a time, I think we were in California, and, we're very open about our story. We share it with whoever wants to listen. And there was a woman, I think she was like the person checking us out at a store. I don't think she was just in the store, but either way, it was a woman we started talking to who heard our story, and she said to us, "That gives me so much hope. I put up my daughter for adoption 22 years ago, and I keep waiting for her to find me, and I feel like because it didn't happen when she turned 18, it never will." So we did give her that little bit of hope, And I'm not trying to get people's hopes up. I know that, there are some children out there that have no desire to meet their biological family, and that's okay too. But, it's not always like 18 and then it's done. It sometimes takes a little bit more maturity and, whatnot. And which that was the case for me. And like I said, I'm very glad that I waited. So I have gotten a lot of questions about my story over the years. I have always maintained that I'm an open book and anybody can ask me anything as it pertains to, my adoption and whatnot. And I hope I answered some of the questions that I've got. I've tried to answer some of those throughout this storytelling episode. But yeah, one question I got to was kind of like growing up if I ever felt out of place being adopted. And no, I never did. Again, I know that that's not everybody's situation, but I was always proud of who I was. I was proud that I was adopted. It was kind of one of those random facts that like when you do the icebreakers and it's like, tell us your name and something about yourself that makes you unique. That was kind of my go-to thing because it was part of who I was, but it never... I shouldn't say never. When I was like really little, I'm sure that there was a time, I kind of felt like somebody didn't want me. But that when you're young, you don't fully understand everything. And as I got older, I learned that, I wouldn't have had the life that I have had and, been able to do the things that I have done had my biological mother not put me up for adoption. And the same goes for her. She would not be in the situation she's in or be in the relationship she's in or live the life she has lived if she had not given me up for adoption. And I think looking at it in that sense has really helped me throughout the years, is not looking at adoption as something negative that somebody gave me up or somebody didn't want to take care of me, but rather somebody gave me that life and whatnot. And somebody gave me these opportunities, albeit not with them raising me, but, we're here today and we've formed a relationship and we've connected, and it's been an amazingly beautiful thing. And she's watched my family grow. She's watched me grow. And, I've got to see her and I've got to see my family, go through their seasons of life. And I've created a relationship with my cousin who, like I said, is only a few months older than me. So it's been really great all around. I know I keep saying it's great. And again, I am not naive. I know that other people's stories may not be like that. I'm very fortunate for mine. And I hope that, again, it resonates with some of you. And maybe you guys feel a little bit deeper connected to me now that you know this little personal tidbit of information about me. I am happy to answer any and all other questions that you might have. Please reach out. You can comment on the episode. You can send us an email. I'm always on Instagram. So please feel free to reach out, ask any questions you may have. I can always do another little mini-sode answering those questions for you guys. Adoption is a big thing when it comes to family. And I know people who have adopted children, and, maybe one day I'll do an episode with that. I can't speak to that, but I have people that definitely can. So maybe I'll do a collaboration and get that side of adoption as well. But it's a big part of families. And I am very grateful that it is a part of who I am. And I'm grateful that I've been able to share it with all of you. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my little storytelling. And I will see you next week. Be sure to like, follow, and share this podcast. And if you aren't already doing so, follow us on Instagram at Organized Chaos with Jill. We'll have all the latest updates, upcoming episodes, and more. Have a good day. The best is yet to come.